Hello, live streamers. Hello, people watching me on the YouTubes. Hello, people listening to me on your earbuds on the next day. Hi, Mom. Hey, everybody who loves to listen to Locked On MLB. We're doing another live stream, and today we're going to be looking at a team that is now dead. In fact, its soul has left its body. And if they've been good, they would be angels. But unfortunately, the angels have not been good. Oh, the irony. We do an autopsy on Angels with Jon Frisch of Locked On Angels. This is Locked On MLB.
You are Locked On MLB. Your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and hello, people who like to watch us on the live stream. I see a couple people showing up there. This is Locked On MLB, the podcast we talk about baseball all season long. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Look at my lower third there. Just call me Sully. I'm an Emmy-nominated television producer. I've been a stand-up comic. I've been a filmmaker. Sometimes I've been an actor. Sometimes I've been on TV talking about baseball. For the last decade or so, I have been a dedicated baseball podcaster. And for the last 4 seasons, I've been here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us your first listen. Was that a sentence? Thanks for making us your first listen, as we're available on all your free podcasting catchers. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Same handle, Locked On MLB Pods. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter. Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Yeah, the Angels have maybe the MVP, certainly someone who belongs in the conversation, the greatest player of this decade, and a gigantic Scrooge McDuck pile of money and streams of income as they play to a gigantic media market. So naturally, they have, I think, the longest current streak of losing seasons in baseball. I may be wrong about that, but the fact that I may be wrong about that shows I'm not going to be 100% wrong. I'm at least in the ballpark. But in the ballpark with me is someone who is already rolling his eyes. The fact that I'm bringing him on board. Hey, come do the show. We'll do a live stream, and I will just absolutely make you feel awful about your team. It's our good friend Jon Frisch from Locked On Angels. How you doing, buddy?
You can't ruin my mood, Sully. Nuh-uh, not today.
Hey, let me pull back the curtain a little bit here because John
Yes,
and I
please.
were playing a little bit of email tag to be on today's show. By the way, if you're watching the live stream, please throw us a chat. Love to, if you have any questions or comments or complaints, throw it in the chat. But John and I were playing a little bit of email tag, trying to figure out when we were going to do this. And he said, well, why don't we do it around 6 o'clock Pacific Daylight Time?
I know where this is
And
going.
my response was, but wait a minute. Wouldn't that be exactly when your beloved Angels are playing? And what was your response?
I said, it's the Angels Rangers. Big deal.
This is what it's come down to. A man who is dedicating his life to create a daily podcast for Angels fans. And we're both here in Southern California. I know tons of Angels fans. I'm sure you know your share of them too.
Mm-hmm.
And the fair weather fans are going to be leaning towards the Dodgers because, surprise, they're about to win 163 games
Good grief,
in a 162 game schedule.
No kidding.
That's hard to do. But you are like, what's the point?
The good news
You
is
become a nihilist. You're a nihilist.
Now, before you go with these wild accusations, I'm fortunate enough to do Locked On Angels with my brother Mike. So he's got eyes on the game. I've got eyes. I got the corner of my eye on the game, but you've got my undivided attention here, Sully.
Well, and I only have eyes for you. But by the way, let's give a nice bit of applause for the hat that Jon Frisch is wearing. That is, I call it the Rod Carew special.
Yes, sir.
I can't, in my heart of hearts, call it the Fred Lynn special because in my mind, Fred Lynn will always be with the Red Sox. But two of the greatest teams in the history of the Angels wore that hat, the 1982 and the 1986 Angels. Both of those teams came perilously close to going to the World Series with incredibly star-studded teams, Hall of Famers, MVPs, superstars, incredibly dynamic players playing for those two teams. And the one thing they both had in common was Gene Mauch was the manager. And someone wiser than me said this about someone else, and I think it applies to Gene Mauch. Gene Mauch could make any great team good. And watching, I may have covered this. If I'm recovering old ground, I remember when iTunes, you could get old classic games on iTunes about 10 years ago. Now you can go on the YouTube channel, watch just any game you want.
Right.
But there were some classic games they had on there. They had the deciding game of the ALCS back when Milwaukee was in the American League. Deciding game of the ALCS in 1982, and they were introducing the starting lineup with Doug DeCense and Bobby Grich and Reggie Jackson and Rod Carew and Fred Lynn and Don Baylor and Tim Foley and Bob Boone. I remember thinking to myself, wait a minute, did I not remember history correctly? How did this team lose? And then they cut to the dugout, and there's Gene Mauch. The same thing with the what it was been called the Dave Henderson Donnie Moore game, where they took a 5-2 lead into the ninth, and then Henderson hit the home run. Then the Angels tied it in the ninth and had a runner on second with one out, and a deep fly ball would have won the. I mean, you watch that game, and I remember thinking, I do remember the Red Sox winning this game, but I must be. This might be Spider-Man Far From Home. So we're just in a parallel. They do the little Doctor Strange thing, and then a multiverse version of Mike Witt walks through there. Yeah, but I love those Angels hats. I love those Angels hats, and I'll tell you, that's not my favorite Angel hat, though.
Which one?
The CA.
Oh, I love CA.
The CA, yeah, that's the best. The 95 special where they collapsed the 95. I'm just going through every Angels collapse.
You know, we're going through so much right now, and you're bringing up all this.
But the CA is the best.
Yeah,
the CA was the classy. That hat you have there is awesome. That's a great hat.
Yeah,
Frank Tanana, Mike Witt, Nolan Ryan, every Angel, those great Angels, Rod Carew. But the CA was just badass, I think.
That's the one I grew up with too. As a young kid, I loved the California Angels and that logo. And this one took me forever to track down. It was unavailable for a few years, and so I missed my window to get it. Saw it online. It came up as an ad, and I was like, all right, buying it.
It's a great one. It's a great one. And you know what? I like, when they wear the red hats. Of course, red hats come with baggage these days, and but
yes,
but
especially in Orange County.
Those flew off the rack. I'm not getting political. I'm just stating a fact.
Correct.
Okay. And this is what I think, because one thing I like about those hats, and don't worry, we are going to talk about baseball at one point. But the first segment, we're talking hats. This has come down to it. We're talking about the Angels hat, but you know what? It's important because the Angels for a while had that hat with the italicized A with the wings coming off of it.
The Disney logo.
Awful. Those are disgraceful. One of the great defensive plays that has ever been captured on video. The Jim Edmonds leaping, running straight back and leaping, making that catch. One of the most incredible plays. He's wearing those god-awful uniforms. Mo Vaughn left the Red Sox and put those garbage uniforms on. God, those are horrible. Horrible.
It's funny how so many young Angels fans look at those and they really like them, and then longtime Angels fans are like, no, not their best. And so it's interesting to hear that from you too. Yeah.
The hat they wear now, which is pretty much Adam Scott Bristol is on the chat. Halo City Connect unis are fantastic.
I do like those.
Those are great.
One of those. Yeah.
Oh, those. Yeah. Oh, okay. Adam, thanks for bringing that up. Let me finish my thought here. The what I like about the hat that you're wearing is it's the clean straight line. They have the little bendy boop on it here. Yeah, and that's the technical term. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. But it's
There's
a little
nothing
more
wrong with that. But I
pointed
like, or maybe it's nostalgia because it's the Angels hat that I grew up with.
yeah.
But I wish the Angels had red hat with a dark blue visor at home and your color scheme on the road.
I would love that. They need a refresh. They need something.
Well, I'll tell you what the refresh is, and Adam Scott Bristol brought it up on the chat here. The city uniforms should be their uniforms.
Yeah,
they look fantastic.
Cool. Yeah. And those are based off of Jack's surfboards in Orange County, and they did a great job because when you think about Orange County, it's like, all right, Disneyland, oranges, freeways. And
Nixon.
Right, him too. And
by the way, and Cal State Fullerton, go Titans.
There you go. Cal State Fullerton, of course. But the fact that they based it off surf culture and all the great beaches out there, like that was a really great decision. So I got to get me some City Connect stuff.
I'll tell you, the 2 City Connect jerseys that should become the permanent uniforms. The Angels they just look fantastic.
Yeah.
They just look terrific. And you know what? Sometimes when there's kind of a commemorative uniform, a team has adopted it. In 1976, a lot of the National League teams had the flat pillbox hat that they wore for 1 year. And the Pirates said, we look badass. Let's keep wearing them. And they wore it for another 10 years.
Love it.
The 2 that I think they should go for, Angels need to have this is their uniform forever now. I think they should, or at least they got to switch some stuff up here. They're wearing the Troy Percival specials now. And yes, that's great. But sometimes you got to shake the Etch-a-Sketch and do something new.
Right.
So the Angels one and the Marlins. Oh, my God. The regular Marlins uniforms they look like when you shoot a TV show and you can't get the rights to the Major League uniforms. So that's the uniforms the Marlins currently have. I loved the uniforms they wore when they moved into Marlin Park that Jose Fernandez, may he rest in peace, and Giancarlo Stanton all wore. I thought those looked great. But the ones when they wear with the red and the blue, those are fantastic.
I like those ones a lot. I like those and the Brewers. I like the San Diego ones just because they're so over the top too. I think that they stand out.
Yeah, I like we finally got back to brown and gold.
Yeah.
Adam Bristol Scott says, I think the Padre City Connect I'll put that up here. I'll put that up. I think the Padre City Connect were designed by Willy Wonka. Yeah, Adam, you're right. But do you know what, Adam Scott Bristol? I like how you think uniform wise, and maybe, just maybe, you could go get some work. Yeah, if you know what, there are probably a bunch of these teams are looking to hire someone with a good mind like yours. And if you're looking to hire for your group, here's what you should do. You should go to LinkedIn. And what you should do is, if you're looking for a potential hire in this high stakes world for your small business, you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates. Like, for example, what's his name again? I forgot the guy's name. Adam Scott Bristol. I almost call him Adam Bristol Scott. Back to the read. That's why you got to have LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people like Adam for your team faster and for free. You can add your job with a purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality candidates and hires to leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnMLB. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnMLB to post your job for free. I hate to break it to you, but terms and conditions do apply. All right, we are back with the Adam Scott Bristol Show with his co-hosts Sully and Jon Frisch. It's bad. The Angels are currently playing the Rangers. You and I are talking about uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no better way to describe what's happened to this Angels season. And I want to point out there was a point where things looked potentially magical for this Angels team. In fact, on June 5th of 2022,
Mm-hmm.
the Angels were a playoff team.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
And yeah, that and at that point, the Angels were in first place. They were having a marvelous season from Ohtani. They had a no-hitter. They had, and it was a set. Look at, I'm not an Angel fan, but I want to see Mike Trout. As I said, I want Mike Trout to have his moment.
Of course.
In the postseason, even if it's not in the World Series, like as I said, like Griffey's moment racing from first on the Edgar Martinez. You mentioned Griffey,
Mm-hmm.
that image of him racing around to clinch that series against New York in '95 instantly comes to anybody's mind. Trout deserves a moment like that. Ohtani deserves a moment like that. I'm a baseball fan. I want to see the stars in the big game.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest with you, I was really excited. Is that this could be a magical Angels season. And if you had told me then that Joe Madden had one more month left and that you would be so checked out down the stretch that we would talk about whether or not the Angels A has a bump in it instead of the pennant race. I mean, that's a clear autopsy right there. So what do you think, man? I mean, this is depressing.
Yeah, it's hard, man. I mean, we had such a great start, and for them to go on that, at the time, 12-game losing streak, that's when Madden got fired, and then there were 2 more losses after that. And to me, it was a lot of, and we've talked about this before, it was a lot of managerial decisions in terms of bullpen usage and pulling starters too early and bringing in Juan Lagares to play right field when we lost Taylor Ward for a little bit, when you had Joe Adell sitting in AAA, and just interesting decisions that I think led to his dismissal. And of course, Madden's had a lot to say since he was fired, and a big sticking point for him was bullpen management and operating that, and him feeling like he was being told what to do. But to me, my perspective was, well, you weren't doing it right, and so you got a talking to from the GMs. And so I think his takeaway from that was, well, they want to tell me how to run the bullpen and da 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 da. And Perry Minasian spent money on the bullpen, which was a huge need in the offseason. And you know, the fact that Aaron Loop did not have the season that he did last year with the Mets. He had a sub-1 ERA with the Mets, and so who wouldn't sign that guy in the offseason? Right. And now he's
I thought it was a great move. I thought it was a great move when they made it.
Yeah, they brought in Ryan Tepera, and he's been okay. I mean, he's not been awful, but some of the guys who have emerged are really a lot of the young guys on the team. But you know, after that losing streak and Phil Nevin took over, I had appreciated a lot of what he had done as a manager. He let the young starters like Jose Suarez and Patrick Sandoval and Reed Detmers, he let them struggle in the sense that, hey, you got a bases loaded jam, get yourself out of it. He wasn't coming out to yank him too quickly. He let those guys work it out.
You're talking Nevin here. Nevin would do that.
Phil Nevin, yeah. Phil Nevin would do that. And at the same time, we went from that horrible losing streak to the bats going ice cold. Jared Walsh apparently had a shoulder issue that he's had surgery on. We lost Anthony Rendon. Trout had his career-ending back issues that just turned out to be a chiropractor adjustment. And so he was out for a little while. And so, you know, at the end of the day, it's another one of those seasons for the Angels. But I do have to say that a lot of us who pay close attention to the team, i.e. my brother and I, and all of those who listen to Locked On Angels, know that in the short time that Perry Minasian has been here, he's finishing his second year with us. He's really revamped the guys who are in AA and single A and drafted pretty well. In fact, the Trash Pandas, who are our AA team, they're in the playoffs, and they got out to a 6-0 lead in their playoff game here tonight. And there's a lot of he moved Brandon Marsh to get Logan O'Hoppe, who has been crushing it since he came over, and we
Right.
need some catching help. And he salary dumped Raisel Iglesias because we didn't need a $32 million closer for a losing team. And
Right.
I think that they are excited about the young arms who have taken a big step forward. Like I mentioned, Detmers, Sandoval, Suarez, those guys are really taking a big step forward this season. And combining them with Ohtani, I think they're really just one big arm away to really help that rotation. And then the other point was the 6 through 9 on this team, maybe even 5 through 9, abysmal. They made Mendoza look good because they're living way below the Mendoza line. And so
Let's
that
look
didn't
at
help
it.
at all.
Let's Adam Scott Bristol posted something. Oops, wrong one. It said that Walsh was having a down year from 2021. Taylor Ward, obviously I meant to say Taylor Ward, came down to earth early crashing down to earth from early in the season.
Yeah, I think that has everything to do with Taylor Ward ran into the wall right in the middle of his hot streak, and he sat for about a week. They brought him back, and he was just not the same. But since the beginning of September, he's got like a 132 WRC plus, and he really, I think, it had everything to do with him being hurt and not quite right, because he's starting to show himself to be the Taylor Ward that he was at the beginning of the season. And that was another thing too that you and I talked about, Sully, was just how big of a surprise that Taylor Ward had been as a right fielder, a guy who was a number 1 draft pick, and now he's 28 years old and finally coming out of his shell. And it was really unfortunate. And honestly, that was another part of that losing streak that really set us back, was losing Taylor Ward to that crash into the wall.
Well, you got Mickey Moniak. Talking about another high draft pick who may be a late bloomer.
Moniak. That's the
You don't want to get in trouble with rights here.
I know.
Can't get in trouble with rights. What if Moniak is one of those late bloomers? He was a number 1 pick overall. What if he needed a change of scenery?
Yeah, to me, he's 24, and Joe Adell's 23 too. But Moniak is doing everything that we would like to see out of Joe Adell. He's playing defense really well. He's got more home runs with the Angels than he had in his entire tenure with the Phillies. And so he got a lot more playing time, obviously, over several different spans of time.
Right.
I think it was about 82 games or so. And yeah, Moniak, I think you're right, I think is really benefiting from a change of scenery. And to be fair, Brandon Marsh is doing great with the Phillies. He struggled for a little bit, but they immediately fixed his swing. And that's another issue with these Angels, is the hitting and the hitting coach. It's just, we are so done with Jeremy Reed as our hitting coach, because there are things that us as fans can identify in a batter that just seem to go missing from the instruction from the coaches. And then you have a sample of Brandon Marsh going to the Phillies and immediately ask their hitting coach, "Hey, what am I doing wrong?" And he goes, "Well, get rid of that toe tap, load up a little further back." And now he's crushing it. So frustrating there as well.
There have been several teams that I have looked at and said, like, I wonder if Joe Madden should go here. I wonder if Joe Madden should go there. Because, Joe Madden suddenly didn't become a fool.
Right.
It was a bad situation. The team that I feel he would be an unbelievably great fit in would have been, I think Minnesota is a talented team that needs, kind of like what the Padres brought in Bob Melvin, the Mets brought in Buck Showalter. Sometimes you need to bring in a veteran manager like that. And I know he wants to take a shot at bringing a third team to the World Series. I think he's already a Hall of Fame manager, but I'm so knee jerk, like, oh, a team needs a new manager. Well, what about Joe? Oh, wait, they already tried that. I'm looking. Nevin, I'm sorry, he's a seat filler.
Yeah.
When the last time he was, this is the guy who waved home that run in the wild card game last year, and everyone talked about him like he's an idiot, and so therefore he gets to put Major League Manager on his LinkedIn page.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, if you want to go to LinkedIn, go to linkedin.com/LockedOnMLB, and you too can get your thing in there as we put the graphic up once again. But and of course he gets to be a major league manager before Chris Chambliss, before
Yes.
Hensley Mullins, before Roberto Kelly. I mean, line up your shots, everyone who do a shot every time I say Bruce Bochy's lieutenants. But if there's ever a team that you should maybe hand the car keys over to someone who is clearly a terrific managerial prospect, and like Mullins, like Roberto Kelly, and to sort of work with management to say, let's make sure we're all on the same page, but to bring in the right hitting coaches. I mean, I'm just going to right here say it. Roberto Kelly is the manager. Hensley Mullins is the hitting coach. I think I've just added 10 wins to the Angels season right there. I think I froze you, John. Oh, dear. Well, folks, I don't know if you can see him or not, but I froze Jon Frisch. And he is now, and off he goes. So while we're here, hopefully he'll come back soon. Let's see. Adam Scott Bristol said the award is hit at every level of the minors. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Now we got to see if he's, my suggestion was to bring back or to bring in, Kelly, who I think is as great a managerial candidate as we'll ever see, and have Mullins be the hitting coach, and just take that on there. Line them up and drink them down, those who say I've been bringing this up too much. Well, Jon Frisch is probably frantically trying to get back into the chat here. You got the link there, buddy, if you're there. If not, we'll talk a little bit more here. The Angels can't win. The Dodgers can't lose. Earlier today, they were losing 5-1, and then they scored 5 runs in the 8th inning, and it was on little cheap hits. And the poor schmuck, who's the third baseman for the Diamondbacks, made a couple of errors, and boom, next thing you know, the Dodgers have 103 wins with a couple of weeks to go. Let's see if there's anyone else in the chat who wants to say, you know what? I'm just going to keep bringing you on, Adam. You're a great listener, so let's see what you got here. What's your next thing you posted on here? I was hoping Marsh would go to the Yankees at the trade deadline. Shaved, he'd be unrecognizable. True. But maybe he wants to keep that card in case he ever wants to go into the witness protection program. Just a quick little jump around the league right now. The Red Sox, J.D. Martinez hit a home run. Looks like they're ahead. The Astros, who are who once again won the West, they are making mincemeat out of the Rays. And with the Yankees currently having a lead over the hapless Pirates, sorry, everyone who wanted to see a great race down the stretch in the American League East, it ain't going to happen. And the Orioles are losing once again to the Tigers. So don't fall into that trap of look and say, the schedule's light. The schedule's light. Doesn't matter if the schedule's light. It's a major league team. And maybe they don't want to hear that they're easy targets. Well, Matt Duffy hit a 2-run home run. So right now the Angels have a 2-1 lead. So there you have it. Well, looks like Jon Frisch has been, let's see if I can get him back or not. If not, we may just call it a podcast. But hey, it was fun having John on. But if there was ever a symbol for the Angels season, it's the fact that even the host of Locked On Angels couldn't stay on the podcast long enough. What are you going to do? Oh, there's John. John, I was just saying that there's no better symbol that even the host of Locked On Angels gets knocked out. You got eliminated. You got eliminated from the podcast.
The magic of live television, Sully.
I vamped. I totally vamped. Adam Scott Bristol, did I vamp? I vamped. Oh, Lord. Those of you ever want to listen to me, I talk about I was an improvisation performer. There you heard it right then and there. Well, my co-host is there. I could end the stream right now, or I can yap and yap and yap and yap. I can just picture if we didn't get on those guitars in the background will be smashed. Hey, let's pull back the curtain a little bit more here.
Yes.
We're using all this intense technology to be in the same room together. What city are you in right now?
I'm in Pasadena.
Yeah, so am I. We could have. We're using all this technology. You're probably there.
I know. Can I wave to you out the window?
Yeah. Hey, man. We could have fixed the problem by going outside
Right.
and saying hello. But no, we got to be in our little dopey studio here.
Caves.
In our little caves because we cannot interact with other humans. All right, Jon Frisch, let's end this nightmare. This is the Angels are, what are an angel is the soul of someone who is dead and going to a better place. And that describes the Angels this year.
Sounds good to me.
Oh my God.
Looking forward to that new ownership, though. I can't wait for that sale to go through, and that's going to be a big change for us.
New ownership. Don't move them out of Anaheim. I don't want to hear any of this Long Beach crap.
No.
Hire Roberto Kelly to be the manager. See if Hansi Mullins will come over there and say, hey, you get to be the manager and have 2 MVP candidates and piles of money. Give him a shot, folks. And do that shot, because I was saying Bruce Bochy's lieutenant. Hey, Jon Frisch, what are the Super Halo Brothers, and why is that your Twitter handle?
Yeah, so Mike and I started our own podcast called Super Halo Bros about a year ago. What? Yeah, well, this is before Locked On Angels, and then we. I was going
to say, is this a competition?
No. It's the reason why we're here, my friend. Yeah. So, how do you incorporate the fact that we're brothers and we're Angel fans? How about Super Halo Bros? So, if you check us out on Twitter at Super Halo Bros or on Instagram at Super Halo Bros, you'll see our awesome Mario Brothers style graphics. No copyright infringement. These are original art pieces. So that's how we got our name, Super Halo Bros. And we're the hosts of Locked On Angels, and we love being here on the Locked On Network and love, chatting with you all the time and you putting up with us.
Well, and I had a podcast before this. In fact, I'll bring up one more Adam Scott Bristol thing. He said, and there's a little typo here. He said, and I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to decode this. I was surprised your 500th Sully Baseball video cast with Aaron Dolan. Adam, were you saying you saw that podcast, that video cast, or you were there? Because actually, that was one of the times I actually had a studio audience. I used to do the Sully Baseball Daily podcast.
Nice.
And I did it I did 365 shows a year. I never missed a day. Even when I was in the hospital, I did a show from my hospital bed. Wow. And it was actually my 1000th episode. I did as a live show in a studio with a studio audience. We did it at the local cable access place, but it was a 3-camera setup.
Yeah.
Erin Dolan, who was the wife of Sean Doolittle at the time, he was with the A's, and she's a friend of mine, and she was a guest, and we talked a little bit about living the Major League Baseball life. You asked. Oh, Adam Scott Bristol. He was in the audience. So he asked a question. Awesome. Okay.
That's awesome.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes, Adam. Okay, cool. I do remember. You do remember. It was in. That's right. We taped it in Palo Alto, California, and at the Mid Peninsula Media Center in Palo Alto, and it was nice. We had a crew and everything like that. And, local cable access was great. Now we do stuff like this, but cool. Adam Scott Bristol. I should throw a link to that. I'm proud of that show.
I'd love to check that out.
Yeah, but that was fun. It was fun doing that. But anyway, hey, that was my previous podcast, Sully Baseball. But
there you go.
I didn't make that LinkedIn money when I was doing that way.
Well, we've had a lot of people ask if Mike and I are going to be around for the foreseeable future. Yes. This team has not scared us away. We love talking about our favorite team, no matter how bad they do or make us feel.
Well, I mean, and I'm to this point, I've talked about this before. Following a baseball team isn't about did they win? Did they? It's good to win from time to time, but it's not always about that. Sometimes it's about this is your companionship over the course of a summer. My favorite baseball movie of all time is Bull Durham. I did a whole other podcast about that called Bull Durham Minute, and where we broke it down a minute at a time. But my favorite thing about that film is it doesn't end with a big game. Final game's a rain out. And the team doesn't even finish in first in their division. The season just ends because that's what happens.
Right.
And then the season's over. And for most teams, that's what it is. This was my companion for the summer. Season's over. Okay, Thanks for being there.
See you in
And
spring.
and yeah, it's great when your team wins the World Series, but uh, it, I refuse to believe only one fan base is allowed to be happy and have an emotional attachment to a team.
Right.
And for those of you who say, "Did they win? No, they didn't win." This is me being a Red Sox fan. I got into an argument with him, but me, grew up with the Red Sox. This guy was like, "Here these people talking 67, 75, 86. Those teams lost." You're a fool. You're a fool. Those are L's. L. Yeah. Only one fan base gets to be happy. You
Right.
don't get it.
Right.
There would be no happy Angels fans
Ever.
ever. All right. Well, hey, I want to thank my two co-hosts for today, Jon Frisch.
Yes.
You can follow him at Super Halo Fans. Adam Scott Bristol. You can follow him in my heart. Thanks for being. And there you go. Adam Scott Bristol says he should listen to Infield Fly Girl. I switch over to Australian League in the offseason. I'm an addict. Go Melbourne Aces. You are an addict, and thanks for listening to our show. And thanks for everyone else for making it your first listen. Check out some of the other great shows of the Locked On Podcast Network, like, Locked On Angels. I just picked one at random. This has been Locked On MLB, Locked On Angels crossover, recording on the 20th day of September 2022. It's officially late September, folks. It ain't early. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me.